welcome to the Nick OG Art and Comics podcast and web show. I'm your host, comic creator Nick OG. Today I'll be sitting down with a very talented writer, Jonathan Thompson, whose diverse work spans genres and mediums. We're going to be talking about comics, novels, getting books made, and more. Let's get to it. General introduction, how old are you? Where are you from?
I'm Jonathan Thompson. I'm 35 years old. I live in Connecticut, but I am a Long Island native.
Cool, man. And how long have you been working on comics?
I've been working as a writer for several years, like my whole life pretty much. But comics, within the past 8 to 9 months, I've been putting stuff together.
Before that, it was prose mainly, or?
Prose, screenwriting, but, a love of comics.
What do you prefer?
They all have their own different kind of pros to them. Like film is where my main motivation is, but comics is just like a unique muscle to flex and a totally different style of doing things. And I love that about it too.
How long have you been reading comics?
Since I knew how to read. Yeah, more than any literature, for sure.
What was your first comic?
My first comic was probably a Superman comic. Couldn't tell you for sure, but like Superman, X-Men comics in the 90s, you couldn't throw a rock and not hit a dozen. And then I think like Mortal Kombat comics was obviously the next progression.
Do you remember who put those out?
Oh, I don't. I think Malibu maybe.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Did I actually read them or more just look at the art? Probably more look at the art. But yeah.
Nice. How old were you when you first got your comic?
Probably like 7, 8. Pretty young. Pretty young that I have a memory of it. You still back then, not even that old, but back then, they had them in the grocery store. Bug your mom for 1 or 2, and that's how you read them. Yeah,
for sure, man. That's how I grew up with them too. Wednesday nights, go grocery shop and pick up the X-Men or.
Yeah, it probably wasn't until I was about like 14, maybe even younger, maybe 13, when I walked into a comic shop, and that's just because my dad owned a bakery, and on the same main street there was a comic shop, so that became like a haven to go to. You just go and get whatever the hell you wanted because you're getting out of people's hair for an hour.
For sure, man. That's got to be a question I got to add. And like your first comic shop experience is kind of what were they like? What type of shop was it? Was it like one of those mom and pop ones, or was it like?
It was. Yeah? It was. It's a mom and pop shop that still is operating today.
That's amazing.
It was like a hangout for like magic cards. People would go to play magic cards there, and like the owner would play cards with everyone. He would help people build decks. So that's where you spent a lot of time there. And while you're waiting in between playing games, you're looking at the comics on the shelf.
That's neat. That's fantastic that they're still around. Like that's awesome.
They actually moved into a bigger place, which I found crazy. But that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What's your favorite comic?
My favorite comic of all time is The Invisibles by Grant Morrison.
Okay, cool.
I have all 4 volume hardcovers. It's probably the only book that I've read start to finish multiple times.
Did you pick it up in singles as well, or was it just something you came to after the fact?
I came to after the fact. I came to Morrison around like the Week 3 area, like that era. And obviously his Batman run. And then, you go back, you try and find what's there. I read Doom Patrol first. Obviously, Doom Patrol led to The Filth, and The Filth led to The Invisibles.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and his new X-Men was at the time, too. So that was the real big thing that hooked me in.
For sure, man. That was a fun run, too.
Yeah. They probably only just now have the X-Books kind of got close to what he did.
Yeah, it's taken a long time. I was really excited when Bendis was there. The Children of the X or Children of the Atom stuff seemed like it was going to be something really fun and special. But
yeah, it was fun, but then it kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, best era for Cyclops though.
He had a pretty good era under Morrison as well.
Yeah, it depends if you're a fan of Fidelity or not, I guess.
Yeah.
Is Morrison your favorite writer, or who's your favorite writer?
Yeah, Morrison,
Yeah, that's a pretty easy
definitely.
choice to make.
Yeah, it's not that controversial, although it can be.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. His Animal Man run was just for me. Like that was tops. Like I read that when I was pretty
Yeah,
young, and it's great.
yeah. I think I read that right before Doom Patrol, so it
Nice.
was like I started with the classics and worked my way up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How about artists? Do you have a favorite artist?
Favorite artist? I do have a handful of them. Um, Mobius. I love what he does. I love like I love Jack Kirby art. I love trying to think of like modern artists, people that really pull me into a book. I think like Mark Bagley does great work. I was hooked into that Ultimate Spider-Man run for a long time, and he just like has a real looseness with the page that's really nice. I love Eduardo Rizzo, the 100 Bullets artist. Um, Obviously, Sean Phillips with Criminal does fantastic stuff. The art, the art keeps me there. The writing is what brings me. The art keeps me, there. It could be okay art, but if the writing and story are together, that's where I'll make concessions. But an artist that really knows what they're doing and really gets creative on the page, that's really exciting to me.
Awesome, man. So growing up, were you a Marvel fan or a DC fan?
I was a DC fan. Although
Okay.
now I probably get more Marvel books just because I just get the X-Men books. But I think DC because I'm a huge Superman fan, huge Batman fan, and then I love the Flash. Can't go wrong there. But
Nice.
they do have DC superheroes are like cosmic and big, where Marvel heroes are down to earth and they're just a different style. I think I grew to love Marvel more as I got older.
Neat, man. I think you're one of the few people that like definitely leaned DC as a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, like I don't know, you were talking about Morrison, like your first books reading that. Like Morrison's JLA #1 was like one of the first books I ever read, and like
yeah.
so I was pretty young when that came out, and that was pretty formative for me.
The funny part is, I didn't even realize until a long time later that I had those issues. Like
Nice.
as a kid, like I didn't know Morrison, but I knew Superman, and I knew that that was a run that like left a mark on me. But from like a little kid, but I never had like a full run back then. I think I had like the issue 1, issue 4, issue 8,
Issue 8
a
was the
bunch of
one.
random
Yeah,
ones.
issue 8 was
Yeah.
great. That one's like burned in my memory. That's when Connor, like the young Green Arrow, was like on the JLA fortress up on the moon all alone with like the Keymaster or something. It was bizarre.
Uh,
So
uh,
does that mean that Green Lantern is like your kind of green, like Kyle is your Green Lantern? That was your
you
era.
know, Kyle was my Green Lantern, and then it did become Hal Jordan because it was right during that Jeff Johns rebirth cycle that they really, because Hal Jordan was always like the mystical one. He was the Spectre at the time. You knew, like, as a reader, he did some messed up stuff, but you never really knew much about him because it was Kyle Rayner. It was Kyle Rayner. And then when they brought back Hal Jordan became a Green Lantern.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a pretty neat period. And then it led to like the renaissance of Green Lantern. But I think that's definitely
Oh,
where it started. Like,
yeah, that Green Lantern Jeff Johns stuff that was some great stuff. Just the little things that he thought of, just to like, okay, there's a Green Lantern, there's yellow, let's do the whole spectrum, and how it really just blossomed out of that. That was some really great stuff.
and it turned like a kind of C-list character, or like as far as like the pantheon goes, like it's not Wonder Woman, it's not Batman, it's not Superman, it's Green
Yeah,
Lantern, and it turned it into like this thing that like wasn't only just became its own kind of universe book, it became like the universe's biggest thing
yeah,
for like
yeah.
2 years, 3 years between Brightest Day and everything like that. So it's pretty crazy.
Great stuff there.
Sure, man. Do you read any foreign comics at all?
Um, do I read any foreign comics? Not necessarily, not just because I haven't been exposed to enough. I did get from Fantagraphics, I got the Streets of Paris, Streets of Murder, which was pretty good stuff. That is, I have it right here too. It is, oh, it's French comics, French crime comics. Manchetti and Tardy.
Okay.
Oh, That's some cool stuff. I got like the big hardcover, the oversized hardcover of that, and that's some awesome stuff. Um, the Mobius stuff with Alejandro Jodorowsky really clicks in for me. Once you hit that Morrison, I need everything to be as crazy as possible. And then you find out that someone was doing it 20, 30 years before that and even crazier. That takes it to a whole nother level.
And it's with Mobius.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I just a couple weeks ago, I got the softcover trade of his Silver Surfer Galactus, and has some cool stuff.
For sure. Like, yeah, that's just amazing stuff. The Humanoids just came out with like a sampler of all that Jodorowsky stuff, and it was like it was a trade for like $4.99. It has like the first issue of Meta Barons. It has like Inkle. It has everything in there. And like if you're looking to sample some great European comics, for cheap.
Yeah, I got that like 2-3 years ago now, and that's when I was like, oh, now I need to go get the Inkle.
Yeah.
Now I read this. Now I need to go get this. I can't stop here.
For sure, they do some great stuff.
Beautiful stuff.
What is your here's a question, since you're a writer as well. I haven't really asked much writers other than like H.P. Lovecraft questions. So what's your favorite prose science fiction book?
My favorite prose science fiction book is probably a mix of it's probably Brave New World. Brave New World left a lasting impression on me when I read it. I do love Aldous Huxley, but I also love Asimov. I was big into Caves of Steel, Naked Sun, Robots at Dawn, that whole like robot trilogy, Foundation. Those were like my young high school days reading that stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I listen to a lot of books when I'm drawing kind of stuff. So I go through like science fiction like constantly. So I'm always looking for recommendations.
Yeah, and you know who's really great? J.G. Ballard is really great.
Okay, what's this?
I've clicked into him recently. He's famous for David Cronenberg did a version of his book Crash.
Okay.
Which is pretty famous. There was a filmmaker a couple years ago that did a version of High Rise with what's his name? Tom Hiddleston. I think that's on Netflix. So he takes you on a dark look of the future, like the best do. But I read his book Drowned World about 6 months ago, and that was really good. All about kind of climate change and how the cities are overcome with water and how these people refuse to leave even though the sun is heating up, and they try and move them from place to place, but you get kind of like trapped in by the environment and the nature and you don't want to leave. It was some really good stuff.
A nice cheery vision of the future.
Yeah, of course. And on the other hand, there's Kurt Vonnegut, who is like the satirist of the darkest parts of our soul.
Yeah, Kurt's my favorite. Like my favorite book is Breakfast of Champions. Like
that's my favorite book as well.
Nice.
Like I couldn't classify that as science fiction, but
you have to, man.
I guess you could. Then that's the one.
Just to piss off like Niven and Purcell or whatever, the snobs of his day that didn't want his work considered science fiction.
Breakfast of Champions is a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's.
I know. Everybody leans to Slaughterhouse-5 as his big book, but it's Breakfast of Champions. Mm-hmm. That book is oof. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's a laugh riot for me, and I absolutely love his little drawings in there.
Oh, the best. I just read Galapagos by him.
Okay.
And that was a fun time. Lesser, but fun.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I haven't checked out that one. I just like Cat's Cradle and a couple of
great stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I deliberately did not want to read every one of his books all at one time because I wanted to like still have some books to look forward to. So
yeah,
I only have a couple more left to read.
If Kilgar Trout's been in it, I've read it. I think at this point.
So. Yeah, I have a really cool copy of God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater that I can't wait to read next.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of like work and stuff and books, so last night I read your book, Tales for the Dead Astronaut. Give the listeners a little breakdown of your book, what it's about, who's involved.
It is a heavy metal style anthology. It features 3 main stories with a overarching framework in between, kind of like in the Tales from the Crypt kind of way, like a dead astronaut floating in space, and he leads us into each story that we see, which are kind of different things that he sees on his way drifting aimlessly through space. We have Another World, which is about monks living on a tree floating through space looking for a new home. We have The Star, which is about a shape-shifting rock star giving the most wild press conference you could imagine. And then we have Prince of Steel, which is a megalomaniac Iron Man letting the board that his father's company used to run tell him how things are going and where the future is.
Nice. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved everyone's style in the book too. Like they all complemented each other very nicely.
It's all one artist. It's George Luis Gabota, and he does a phenomenal job.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of people are surprised when they find out that it's one artist. And he did a great job of just like switching up his style to suit the story and making it fun and making it different. That it gives the book an extra element of fun to it when you think that it's not just one uniform style to take you through. It really just mixes it up. Mm-hmm. It's it's like jazz freestyling there.
Yeah, even his paneling, like story to story, is pretty different each time. That's the most surprising thing.
Yeah, it's nice. It suits the story so well. It suits each one. Each one, they complement each other while still being their own thing.
So next up, since we talked about that, what projects do you have coming up in the future?
I have 2 projects that are on the horizon. I have another project with George. It is a one-shot book. It is a sci-fi adventure book called The Solar Flare. It's about a 13-year-old kid, a genius kid who has a orbiting space station where he goes into organic robots where he uses them to like fight crime or fight injustice and protect planets that need a hero. And then I have a crime comic with the Italian artist Rossano Pigioni, which is it's a dark ride about a gas station attendant with third-degree burns all over his body. He just kind of tends to each car as they come by, minds his own business until a car shows up that has the person who scarred him in the first place, and how things go at that point. That one's a wild little ride there.
That's neat.
It is as dark and brutal as they come, which is a nice mix-up. I like to keep things different. I like to keep challenging myself and keep things interesting.
So that's kind of like a revenge story then at that point? Or?
Yeah. It's a revenge story.
Nice. Is it like a real Dolan's Cadillac? Or?
Yeah. Well, it takes place in 30 years in the future, so it has a sci-fi bent to it, only slightly in the world where everything is electric.
Okay.
And the car that shows up is an old 1970s muscle car, and the only gas pump in the town is at this gas station. So there's a lot of gasoline involved.
Neat. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. So just the 2 books, or do you have anything else up in the works?
Just the 2 books for right now. We have Tales from the Dead Astronaut out. Are
you doing more with that series, or is that?
We think we're going to do at least 2 more because we leave it open up to do more. And I think that would be a nice, it's fun to work in that smaller vein where we have short stories. It kind of keeps things interesting. You can compact stories, make things more interesting that might not be worth a series. A just nice idea that George could draw something really cool and wicked for. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's a fun style to work in. It's good to always have something different to do because it always keeps your mind fresh.
Yeah, I like that you guys have like your own framing guy and a dead astronaut character guy too. Like that's a neat idea.
And we left the book with a cliffhanger so that he could continue and we could see where he goes, where he could be the main story throughout the 3 issues, and then we pop in to see these all little stories around him.
That's a lot of fun, man. That's a really neat idea. What's the hardest part of the creative process for you?
The hardest part, I would say at beginning, was finding the right artists to work for and kind of surrendering myself to that trust of that partnership. To know that I'm not breaking down every page. I'm filling it with panels for them to draw, but it's up to them to create something really artistic on the page. And that was hard to relinquish at first, but now I've really given myself up to that, which is creating something even better than I expected. So the hardest part right now is just challenging myself to always do something different and make sure it fits in with what I want to see in a book, and to not, not do something just to do something, but do something that has meaning.
Awesome, man. And what's the easiest?
The easiest probably is the actual writing of it at that point, because I've thought about it so much. I spend my day thinking about how I'm going to plan everything, that's the really like fun, easy part where I could just sit down and type. And then the biggest easy part is when I get the book, when I see the pages and I can enjoy them as a fresh reader and get excited all over again.
Yeah, it's always nice to have something in your hands.
Yeah.
And actually get to see how it came out.
Yeah, it's really rewarding. When I first got the printed copies of Tales from the Dead Astronaut and holding it in my hand, it was like, wow, this is, we did something really cool. It feels really cool and feels like something that I would want to have.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. What advice would you give to someone just starting out making their own comics?
Just to do it. There's a lot of reasons that a person can hold themselves back, and they're mostly due to like fear and resistance, thinking, oh, I need things to be perfect before I do this. I need to have everything aligned the right way before I do this. And that's not true at all. You just need to do it. You'll find out what you did right and what you did wrong. And then you'll grow and be better, but you'll also have done it in the first place. You can't be a comic book writer or a comic book artist unless you make a comic book. So you need to make a comic book. And the way things are, it's very easy to do that. If you're a writer, sometimes it's hard because, listen, I'm sure you want someone that's like Jim Lee, but you don't have the money to pay for Jim Lee. Think about how much money you have, how much money you're willing to invest, and start off small. That's why I started with smaller stories at first, because I wasn't ready to say, oh, okay, I have $2,000 here. Let's go blow it on a 22-page book that I don't even know if I have the full grasp of what I'm doing yet. But by starting off small, we did a 2-pager, we did a 4-pager, then we got to 8 pages, and then next thing I knew, I had a 32-page book. So, that was a great way to do things, because that really helped me learn, to give me the confidence to, that's why my next 2 projects are a 22-page book and a 32-page book. And I have no fear, hesitation about what to do next.
All self-contained?
Next is the series.
Yeah.
All self-contained. Yeah.
So far, yeah.
The both books are open to more, but it's important to me also as a writer that every time someone like puts their hard-earned money into a book, that they walk away with something complete. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to be something where, I feel like I have part of a story. The story's not even ramped up yet. Because also, you don't know, on an indie level, first of all, you don't know if that second thing is ever coming.
Yeah.
So that first thing has to be fully there, fully put together, and fully ready to go. So like with Solar Flare, that's going to be a one-off story, but it establishes the hero and establishes the stakes. So if we wanted to do another one, it's very easy to do another one. It's very easy to continue that adventure. And with the crime comic, Burn Residue, that one, it could end on page 32, but it also could start again on issue 2.
Mm. Yeah, I find that, you definitely need to bring something that's self-contained, right? In the very least, at least a full story. I have one book, and it was issue 1, and I've sold a couple of them. It was my first 22-page book. It was with somebody though, and we've never finished issue 2. So it's I can't sell it anymore at shows because it's not I'm not sure if it's ever going to get done. Yeah. But it's also so I don't know. From then on out, now it's just been little small stuff. Currently doing a 48-page story. That's
cool.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing so far for me. That I've written myself, but it's also it ends succinctly and it ends its own little story, but it's also could go on from there. And I think
I think that's important. Yeah, I do. I think that's important because as a consumer, if I'm someone that walks into a comic book shop and I'm going to try something for the first time that I don't have the brand identity of the company or the author or even the artist, if I'm going to take that risk and I'm going to take this one issue, I don't want to feel like I read it as I'm walking to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I want to feel like I got immersed in this thing and this is super cool, super awesome, man, I want to see what these people do next. If it's not another issue of this, whatever they're going to do next, I want to see, because this was awesome.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So last question. You've been given the opportunity to work with any IP you wish. What do you choose, and what do you do with it?
See, I would go Superman. I would definitely go there. I would make him I would make him the Boy Scout that he should be, but the righteous Boy Scout that he should be, and keep that like sci-fi world around him. But I also wouldn't lean too heavy on what we already know. Like, I love Lex Luthor. I would keep Lex Luthor. He would be there. But other than that, I would use the core Rogues Gallery to build something new, but not rely on crutches of, Superboy or stories of the past. I want to bring it into the future and put him in the future, put him in today's world. Not just feel like, this could still be a book from the 90s.
Yeah, for sure. And he needs some more life breathed into him too. So like, he needs kind of take. I don't know. I've got a Superman story myself, but DC would never let me publish it. So,
See, I would almost say X-Men, because I have a Sabretooth story that the second I get a chance to pitch it, I will, but it can only work in the way they've built things right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I get a one-shot. Come on, they would do great.
You could just have to wait till they come back with What If, 20 years in the future when you're a successful writer. Yeah. You'll be like, bring back What If, and I'll tell my Sabretooth story.
In the X books, he's trapped in the middle of that island, deep down, and that's where my story is. So you never know.
Neat, man. Well, thank you very much, dude, for hanging out with us. This has been Jonathan Thompson. Definitely check out his book. Definitely check out his website. What's the website again?
The website is spacestationz.com. The book is Tales from the Dead Astronaut. We are on Instagram at spacestationz and on Twitter at Commander of Z.
Awesome, man. And everybody go give it a look. It's a great book, and you will not be disappointed. And thanks again, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Before we go, I'd like to take a second to talk about my latest project, The Music of Eric Zahn. Following my yearly tradition of adapting an H.P. Lovecraft story that was published precisely 100 years prior, this year's is going to be the best yet. I've got 3 days left in the campaign and we're nearly 300% funded. A number of stretch goals have been unlocked, meaning that every physical backer will be getting an exclusive poster of my insanely detailed rendering of the Nameless City and a signed and numbered tentacle lino block print. We also have almost unlocked our next stretch goal, which will mean I'll be doing an additional short H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. Give the campaign a look, links in the description. We'd appreciate any shares on social media. We really want to finish this campaign strong.